What's up? What's happening? Dan Lucero here, and doing a little bit of an experiment today on our YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Trying to give you some more content, a little bit more fun on the YouTube channel as you go about your workday. Check out some of our videos. Make sure you subscribe to 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, and you can watch the live program 580 Sports Talk every day from 3 until 6, and check out all our other video content, game instant reactions, shorts, and maybe a few more of these. Who knows? Anyhow, you perhaps recall the last few weeks we've done a segment called Name That Guy, and I am, as the champion, the all-time champion of Name That Guy, you're very aware that I'm pretty good at remembering some guys. And the most fun thing to do when you remember guys is to plug them in to the Immaculate Grid. If you're unfamiliar, it's a game where you fill out rows and columns based on who has played for which teams and accomplished certain milestones in their careers. I do it every day. It's one of my favorite ways to pass time. And I thought, let's bring it to YouTube and let's do an Immaculate Grid together and see how this goes. So without any further ado, let's get into today's grid, which you can see here today. You can go to baseballreference.com, bb-ref.com, and find the Immaculate Grid every day. And today's Immaculate Grid, you can see we have Mets, Blue Jays, and 20-win season columns. And our rows are the Twins, the Reds, and the Cleveland baseball concern. Guardians, Indians, Naps, Spiders, all of that. Anyhow, you get 9 guesses for the 9 squares. If you brick on a guess, you don't get to fill out the entire grid. I am not only trying to fill the grid, I am trying to get the lowest rarity score, the lowest percentage score on each answer. So not only am I looking to fill out the grid, I'm trying to fill it with people that others might not immediately remember. So today's grid, I like to start with the milestones. So the 20-win season column, we're going to start there. And in particular, I like using old guys, like black and white, if I can go back that far to like black and white photos, because you get really good rarity scores with those players. And obviously the 20-game winner is kind of not in vogue in baseball these days. So there are more of them who are answers when you go way back, 70s, 60s, 50s, even further back than that. So that's what we'll do in this column today. For the Cleveland club, I'm going to go with Mike Garcia. He was a pitcher on the 1954 pennant winners, Mike, not Mark, and was a teammate of Bob Fellers and won 20 games with them at least once. That's a 0.9%, so we're off to a good start. For the Reds, I'm going to go back even further than that. The Reds won the National League in 1940, and their ace back then was a gentleman named Paul Derringer, another 0.9%. And for the Twins, I'm going with one of the Black Aces, the African-American pitchers who've won 20 games in a season in baseball history, going with Mudcat Grant. A little higher there, 2%, but still pretty happy with that column. All right, taking on the rest of the board here. Just saw the Reds. They played the Royals last weekend, and in the course of watching that series, I noticed that they had Santiago Espinal on the team, and I remember he came up with the Blue Jays. In fact, was an all-star with the Blue Jays either last year or the year before. So we'll go with Santiago Espinal in that space, and that's a 6%, a little higher than I like, but easy answer there, having just seen the Reds. Finish the Reds row here. The Reds and the Mets have made one of the more famous trades in baseball history back when Tom Seaver was traded from the Mets to the Reds. That's before my time, but I still know about this stuff. Again, I'm a ball knower and a guy rememberer. Keep that in mind. Tom Seaver was traded from the Mets to the Reds, but the most prominent player who went back the other direction from the Reds to the Mets was a pitcher named Pat Zachry. And we'll go with Pat Zachry in this square for another 2% rarity score. All right, Twins. Let's do the Twins row. Twins and Mets. Let's go with an ex-Royal in that spot. How about Jorge Lopez, who was a Royal briefly, 1% there. Lopez, of course, came to the Royals from the Brewers in the Mike Moustakas trade, moved on from there, was a Twin, also an Oriole, started this year with the Mets, and pitched his way out of New York, had that memorable post-game tirade where Clearly, he was struggling, not doing too well. And I forget who he's with now, but memorable Mets tenure, if not in a good way, for Jorge Lopez. So he is my answer there. Go with another reliever here. Again, just saw the Twins play the Royals not long ago. They traded for Trevor Richards at the trade deadline, and he's pitching in relief for them. He's also a former Blue Jay, 0.8% for Trevor Richards in that square. That leaves us with the Cleveland row, Cleveland and New York, the Mets, Cleveland and Toronto. And I'm going with a couple of really well-known pitchers from the 1980s here that both turned up with Cleveland in the mid-90s. Go with Dwight Gooden in this square. Of course, Dr. K, great with the Mets in the 80s, dealt with drugs, arm injuries, did turn up with Cleveland in the mid-90s. Only 2% for Dwight Gooden. I'm kind of surprised that the score there was that low. And for the Blue Jays and Cleveland square, I'm going to go with someone who helped the Blue Jays to a championship and wound down his career with the Cleveland Indians in the mid-90s, but was much better known for his work with the Tigers and the Twins in the 80s. That would be Jack Morris. And we've got a 17 rarity score on the board today as Morris comes in at less than 1%. Really surprised. Those are two really well-known 80s players and pretty low scores for those two. So there you have it. That's my Immaculate Grid today. What was your rarity score? I'd love to hear it in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe again to 580 Sports Talk, and maybe we'll do a few more of these down the road.